3 spine-chilling true tales of haunted terror. Discover sinister secrets revealed. EP 176. The air in Hollow Creek was thick with tension, the kind that made your skin crawl and heart race. Claire, a devoted stay-at-home mom, felt it creeping into her carefully crafted world. She stood in her sunny kitchen, flipping pancakes, while morning cartoons babbled eerily in the background. Outside, children played, and laughter filled the air, but beneath the surface, a darkness threatened to rise. One fateful morning, Claire discovered a letter slipped under her door. It was an unassuming white envelope, with jagged handwriting that sent shivers down her spine as she picked it up. Quivering fingers tore it open. It revealed chilling secrets about the Harisas, neighbors she once considered friends. Betrayals and hidden sins dripped from the pages. Her heart pounded. Who could have written such a thing? At first, she brushed it off as a sick joke, a prank born from boredom. Yet, as the days slipped by, her unease deepened. One by one, familiar faces vanished from Hollow Creek. Windows boarded, for sale, signs sprouting like weeds. The butcher, beloved for his friendly banter, closed shop overnight. A cryptic note pinned to the door read, "Gone." Panic dripped into her routine like the syrup she poured over her pancakes. When Claire tried to voice her concerns among the other moms in the park, their forced laughter and dismissive waves only fueled her paranoia. No one wanted to acknowledge what was happening. It felt like they were hiding something, and she could feel it gnawing at her sanity. The letters kept coming, darker and more personal, now signed Your Watcher. Desperate for help, she approached the local police. The officer smirked as if enjoying her hysteria. "You might be reading too much into harmless gossip," he said, laughter dancing in his eyes. Rage bubbled within her, but more than anything, fear took hold. If she couldn't count on the police, who could she trust? Claire knew she had to dig deeper. That night, she climbed into the attic, a dust cloud swirling around her as she rummaged through forgotten boxes. Old yearbooks and yellowing town archives lay scattered, pages filled with memories. But it was what was hidden in the margins that caught her eye. Warning scribbled, whispers of tragedies overlooked. Hollow Creek wasn't the picture-perfect neighborhood it pretended to be. Her heart hammered in her chest, the weight of her discovery nearly suffocating her. The realization hit, she was not just protecting her family, she was unearthing a gothic tragedy that stretched back generations. As she descended the attic stairs, the silence in her home felt suffocating, a predator lurking behind the walls. The echo of small footsteps made her freeze. Her children stood at the top of the stairs, shadows of confusion and fear dancing on their faces. "Mommy, what's wrong?" they asked, unaware of the storm brewing in their once safe home. Just when she thought she could catch her breath, a soft knock echoed through the house, an unwelcome sound that sent dread crashing over her like a wave. Someone was at the door, and the only thing she was certain of was that it was after dark. As Claire glanced down the hallway, her stomach twisted in knots. Did she really want to find out who was waiting on the other side? The knock came again, sharper this time. Claire's heart raced as she froze in place, her breath hitching in her throat. The quiet of her home felt amplified, as if the walls were listening, waiting. "Mommy, who is it?" her daughter whispered, clutching her brother's hand tightly. Claire wanted to reassure them, to tell them it was probably just a neighbor, someone kindly checking in. But the truth pricked at her consciousness like a thorn. None of her neighbors had come around lately, not since the letters started arriving. She glanced down the hallway, shadows pooling in the corners like something alive, something hungry. The knock came again, this time with an urgency that shot straight to her core. It was a sound that begged to be answered, but dread surged like a bitter wind through her veins. She turned back to her kids, trying to muster a waver of strength. "Stay here," she whispered, the words barely escaping her lips. With trembling hands, Claire reached for the doorknob. It felt cold against her palm, a shocking chill that seeped into her skin. A rush of adrenaline made her fingers shake, and she wondered, for a moment, if she could just turn back and hide. But the thought of leaving her children alone in the dark was more terrifying than whatever stood outside. taking a deep breath, she opened the door a crack. The light from inside her home spilled out into the night, illuminating the figure stationed at her doorstep. It was a woman, draped in a long, tattered coat that seemed to blend into the shadows. Her face was pale, eyes sunken, and an eerie smile carved across her lips like a mask made of bone. Claire recoiled, the hair on her arms prickled as she tried to gauge the intentions behind that unsettling smile. "Claire." The woman's voice was a raspy whisper, echoing in the silence. "I found what you were looking for." She held out a small, weathered envelope, the edges frayed and burnt, as if it had narrowly escaped a fire. Something inside Claire snapped. The watchful eye of 1,000 questions and fears flooded her mind. "Who are you?" she demanded, panic bubbling as she pulled the door slightly wider, her protective instincts igniting, even as the woman continued to smile. "I'm someone who knows." The woman leaned in closer, the stench of mildew wafting off her like a suffocating fog. "You need to know what the townsfolk are hiding. Hollow Creek and all its horrors hold secrets centuries deep." Suddenly a chill enveloped Claire, the very air around her feeling thick and malevolent. In that moment, she understood that the woman was not a mere stranger, she was a fragment of the darkness that had bled into their lives. "Mommy. What's wrong?" Her son's voice broke through as he bravely stepped forward, emboldened by innocence. The woman's gaze shifted, her smile deepening into a twisted glee. "Oh, nothing, yet. I'll be watching you, Claire." With those haunting words, she slipped back into the shadows, melting away as if she were part of the darkness itself. Claire slammed the door shut, panic surging through her body. She felt like she was spinning, her head swimming with confusion and dread. What was that woman trying to warn her about? What secrets did Hollow Creek hold in its insidious grasp? The children seemed scared, but Claire couldn't focus on them now. The letter flashed in her mind, the need to uncover the truth burning. Whatever it was that Hollow Creek had to hide, she was determined to pry it open. But as night fell deeper, a new letter slipped through her mailbox, its edges blackened as if it had been burned just for her. What chilling reality lay on the other side of that envelope? Claire's heart sank as she grasped the door frame, her fingers digging in as if it could anchor her to sanity. She hesitated. What awaited her when she opened it? Claire's hand trembled as her fingers brushed the envelope's frayed edges. The darkness around her felt alive, pulsating with impending dread. A low, sinister rustle outside sent a shiver down her spine, and she glanced at the front window. Nothing but the inky blackness of the night stared back at her. "Mommy?" Her daughter's small voice pulled her back. "What's in it?" Claire struggled to keep the panic from her voice. "I don't know yet, sweetie. Just stay close, okay?" Almost forgetting the letter, she glanced at her children. Their wide eyes were glued to her, reflecting the twisted horror she felt. Claire knew she had to act. The woman's words wrapped around her mind like a tightening noose. She had to learn the secret of Hollow Creek. Whatever it was, it would not let them go until it was unveiled. "Keep the lights on," she instructed firmly, inspiration sparking within her. "I'm going to look outside." With one last glance at her children, she stepped cautiously toward the window. She peeked through the curtain, half expecting the woman to be standing there. But, of course, the darkness only smirked back. She fought the urge to look away. Something told her that whatever happened next would be pivotal. Taking a deep breath, she tore open the envelope, feeling the heat from her own growing fear. Inside, she found a single sheet of brittle paper. Scratched letters revealed a map, its lines faded and fragmented, leading from her house towards the edge of the woods, a place she had always avoided. As her eyes traced the ink, a heaviness settled in her chest. A sudden knock on the door jolted her. This time, it was more like a slam, rattling the frame. Claire's heartbeat thundered. Panic surged up and down her spine like a wave. "Mommy! I'm scared!" her son cried. Ignoring the instinct to shield her children, Claire moved back to the door. "Who is it?" She called, voice quaking. No answer. She hesitated, then turned, feeling drawn back to the map that lay on the table. There was something nearby. Something buried. The thought made her stomach churn. I have to go find it, she whispered, half to herself. Find what? Her daughter asked, eyes wide and innocent. Claire bit her lip, the weight of the decision pressing against her chest. I don't know, honey. I just need to know. As her fear coiled tighter, another loud thud echoed, this time at the back of the house. Followed by a bone-chilling laugh that sent icy fingers crawling down her spine. It pierced the night like an arrow through flesh, that laugh. It felt so familiar yet totally alien, as if it belonged to the darkness itself. Go upstairs. Both of you. She ordered, her voice sharp. They hesitated, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. Now, please. They scrambled up the stairs, leaving Claire alone with the spreading shadows enveloping her home. She clutched the map tightly, desperate for answers. As she looked towards the darkened hallway, another knock echoed, sharper and more insistent. Adrenaline coursed through her veins. Open up. Came a low voice, heavy with malice. Let me in, Claire. The truth is waiting. She felt the floor shift beneath her as fear twisted like a knife in her gut. The walls seemed to close in, and Claire forward, unable to resist the call of the map. It promised secrets but came with a price. With the envelope burning in her hands, she made a choice. But standing there, on the precipice between knowledge and safety, she had to ask herself, was the truth worth losing everything? Claire took a breath, gripping the doorjamb like a lifeline. What would she uncover in those woods? And would the shadows lurking behind her ever let her return home? The air hung thick with trepidation as Claire steeled herself, her heart thrumming wildly against her ribs. Each thud on the door seemed to echo with an eerie familiarity that set her on edge. The map, the answer to Hollow Creek, pulled at her like a moth to a flame, whispering promises of clarity from the depths of dread. Let me in, Claire. The voice taunted again. It was like a music box's slow, grating tune, full of dark intent. She turned from the door, making her way toward the kitchen, instinct screaming for her to prepare. The knife block gleamed under the flickering light, a semblance of safety in a world gone mad. What was she going to find in those woods? Goosebumps prickled her skin at the thought. She glanced at the kids upstairs, their muffled whispers piercing through the fragile atmosphere, and felt a pang of guilt. They were not safe. Not in this house. Not while whatever hunted her was out there. Something reassuring lurked beneath her resolve, a desperate need to protect her children. Claire snatched a small knife, its weight felt right in her hand, before retreating to the entrance, surveying the darkened hallway before her. The map. Details blurred from her memory, but she knew the woods held grave secrets about Hollow Creek long buried. Was it worth it? A wild kick at the door splintered her thoughts. The noise grew louder, overwhelming her senses. Claire. It's me. Open the door. No response. Paranoia gripped her mind. Was it really someone she knew? Or had the shadows caught them too? She pressed her back against the wall, craving shadows to weave away into nothing. A chill pressed around her neck, tightening like an invisible rope. She felt the icy breath of fear on her skin and tried to choke down the voice urging her to flee. But all she could think about was the map. Shadows danced across the floor, taunting her with memories of screams she couldn't recall, a pattern looping through the fabric of her being. Suddenly, a figure appeared at the doorway, illuminated briefly by the moonlight streaming through the window. Claire held her breath, heart racing at the sight of tangled hair and wild eyes. Anna, her childhood friend. But there was something off about the way she smiled, the angles of her face shifting like clay in a potter's hands. I've come to help you, Claire, Anna spoke sweetly, almost too sweet. You've been chosen. The choice loomed like a boulder ready to roll downhill, taking everything with it. Was this the voice of reason she'd been yearning for, or the tongue of deceit whispering lies? Claire's fingers curled tighter around the knife. What do you mean? Anna stepped forward, shrouded in a gauzy veil of darkness. The woods hold the truth, Claire. You'll lose everything if you don't go. I can show you. Claire felt the sick twist in her stomach. There were things she had once buried, deep memories of laughter at the creekside, of happiness, but among them lurked shadows. The past clawing back with a passion to reclaim what was once hidden. Stay away. Claire shouted, a note of frustration slipping into her voice. Anna's laughter stained the air, sharp and cutting, echoing sinister promises through the trembling walls. In that moment, Claire made her choice. She turned toward the back door, the map flickering in her mind like a beacon. She could face what came next, or succumb to the darkness that threatened to engulf them all. Mama? Her daughter's voice wafted from above, pure innocence laced with fear. Claire's heart shattered at the sound. Without looking back, she flung the door open wide, the chill of the night wrapping around her like an embrace. But at that instant, a hand reached for her, cold as ice. You think you can run? Anna's voice coiled around her, tightening with each heartbeat. The night stretched before Claire like a gaping maw. Escape boiled down to seconds. The door behind her trembled. Would the woods reveal the truth she sought or drag her into their depths? With a resolve born from the deepest fear, she stepped into the dark, leaving everything she ever knew behind. And as she crossed the threshold, a chilling realization settled in. A new power was rising, and it wouldn't stop until it devoured them all. What awaited her in those whispering trees that held secrets from the beginning of Hollow Creek? The forest loomed ahead, an ancient sea of twisted trunks and shadowy undergrowth. Dark branches arched like gnarled fingers, beckoning Claire deeper into a realm where nightmares danced beneath the surface. The moonlight struggled to pierce through, casting flickering shapes that shifted with each breath she took. She hesitated, knife clenched tight, uncertainty gnawing at her spirit. Anna's disembodied voice taunted her from the brink of the door. You've been chosen. It echoed around her like a haunting lullaby, mixed with the cold breeze curling through the trees. Thoughts raced a battle between the instinct to flee and the pull of destiny. Just then, a rustle broke through the dense air, sharp and sudden. Claire spun around, eyes darting, heart slamming against her chest. Was she truly alone out here? Children, she whispered, the words slipping from parched lips. They were still back at home, behind locked doors that felt like fragile armor against the darkness. Her choice was made, she had to find the truth. Claire pressed forward, driven by whispers that seemed to arise from the very ground. The map. It had held keys to Hollow Creek's mysteries she had to remember. A fog rolled in, wrapping around her legs, slowing her movement, as if the forest itself wanted her to become one with the earth. Suddenly, a figure darted from the shadows, brief and fleeting, just beyond the edge of her vision. Claire's breath hitched. Hello? It was too late to turn back now, her voice trembling as she called out to the darkness. No answer. Just the rustle of leaves, almost laughter, circling her. The tension twisted tighter in her gut. This place promised secrets but also deception. She kept moving, the knife outstretched like a shield. Her surroundings shifted, familiar yet foreign, and familiar voices began trickling back into her mind. Laughter of children, the quiet conversations she had shared with Anna by the creek. Each recollection seeped heaviness into her heart. Yet, as she reached a small clearing, her breath caught. Before her lay a weathered stone, half covered in moss, and it looked ancient. Symbols etched into it writhed under her gaze, resembling faces twisted in agony. Her heart raced as she took a step closer, compelled by an irresistibly dark force. The whispers became clearer now. You cannot escape. The words hissed through the rustling branches. Claire shivered, scanning for the source. Shadows seemed to pulse, alive with ominous intent. What do you want from me? She cried, voice breaking, small against the cacophony of the woods. Everything the response echoed, chilling her blood. With every repetitive pulse of sound, Claire felt flickers of recognition, fragments of her past laced with deep-rooted terror. Each whisper of the wind told a different story, every rustle a warning. Confusion fueled her panic as she recognized glimmers of truth buried within those whispers, memories that should have been lost, but fear rose like bile as something shifted behind her. She turned rapidly, the knife trembling in her grasp, expecting Anna or something worse. Instead, a large black wolf stared back at her, eyes glowing with a spectral light. "What are you?" she whispered, adrenaline pumping. She could sense it. The creature drew closer, weaving through the shadows. But before she could comprehend her next move, the wolf shifted, transforming before her, into a hunched figure cloaked in darkness. "You shouldn't have come here." Claire. It was Anna, her familiar yet twisted form standing sentinel, grinning with a sickening satisfaction. The sacrifice must be made. Panic surged through Claire as she scrambled backward, pressing against the stone, the pulse of the forest closing in. Would she find a path of escape, or would the darkness claim her as it had so many before? In that moment of pure dread, the ancient trees whispered their secrets again, echoing the promise of terrible power, a truth she still struggled to grasp. "Can you bear the truth?" Anna's voice, now layered with multiple tones, pierced through the shadows. And then, silence fell abruptly. Claire felt an overwhelming presence wash over her. The choice was about to be forced upon her. Would she be brave enough to uncover the horror buried in the heart of Hollow Creek, or would she fall prey to its eternal grasp? As the darkness coiled around her, a fragment of light flickered in the distance, casting doubt on the reality she once believed. What would she discover as the night deepened, and the forest revealed its most guarded secret? The air thickened as Claire's heart raced. She pressed her back against the cold, damp stone. Anna's face twisted in the dim light, a grotesque caricature of friendship. The sacrifice must be made. Each word dripped with malice, sending chills racing down Claire's spine. "No!" Claire screamed, fists tightening around the knife. She felt panic clawing at her throat. "I want to be part of this." But the forest had other ideas. The ground trembled beneath her feet, branches bending as if straining to reach her. The shadows pulsed with a life of their own, merging and twisting like a living tapestry of horror. Whispers grew louder, drowning out her thoughts. "Join us." Surrender. Suddenly, Anna lunged forward, the grin stretching way too wide. "It's not just you, Claire. You're just the start. We need you to complete the circle." Claire's breath quickened, and she spun away from Anna, looking for escape. Her eyes darted through the fog, searching for any sign of a way out while the darkness closed in around her. She could feel it, a weight, pressing down, inviting her to give in to despair. The flickering light she had seen earlier caught her eye once more. A shimmer, faint yet beckoning. Was it a way home? With every ounce of determination, she sprinted toward it, muscles screaming in protest. Anna's laughter echoed behind her, sending fresh shudders across her skin. "You can't run from your fate." The clearing seemed to distort, branches reaching out, trying to pull her back. "Everything is connected," the forest whispered, "the past, the present, and the sacrifice." Just as she reached the source of light, a sharp pain pierced her side. Claire stumbled, almost losing her grip on the knife. She twisted, expecting to face Anna, but it was only a thorny vine, alive with malice. Dark tendrils snaked around her ankle, binding her. She yanked at them, panic surging anew. "Let me go!" she shouted, voice cracking. But the shadows moved like serpents, tightening their grip. "You can't escape what was done. You are tied to this place, this curse." Desperation clawed at her heart. Remembering the map, she recalled the symbols. Each one was a story, a village lost, a family betrayed. She had seen the faces. They were children once, just like her own. "Please!" she cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Don't take me. Don't take my children." Her plea hung in the air, desperate and raw, and then, another voice broke through. Faint but clear. Claire. It echoed against the throbbing cadence of the forest, and suddenly, the darkness recoiled. A flash of white light burst from the ground, illuminating the giants of the forest and bathing Claire in warmth. She blinked, caught between worlds, her own and the dark one tugging at her soul. Claire. Fight it. She gasped, vision clearing. It was her own voice, her strength. She seized it and wrenched the knife free, slashing through the vine. With freedom came a prickle of realization. The darkness shrieked, shocked that she could resist. You will join us. You cannot fight the inevitable. But Claire wouldn't yield. With one decisive move, she plunged the knife into the ground, the ancient stone beneath vibrating with power. The forest pulsed, responding to her command. The shadows wailed, shattering, scrambling back into the depths of the night. A path opened before her, glowing with fierce intensity. Run. Now. The voice of her children surged back to her as she sprinted forward, dread transforming into raw survival instinct. The moon broke through the clouds, revealing a wild, new landscape. Claire felt hope, but dread lingered. Could she escape Hollow Creek? As she fled, the echoes of the forest echoed behind her, relentless and hungry. You cannot outrun your destiny, Claire built upon fear, wrapping around her heart like vines. That promise lingered in the back of her mind, a dark reminder that the forest's grip was far from relinquished. What lay ahead? A chance for freedom, or a darker truth waiting in the shadows? Claire stumbled onto the open path, the glow flickering like a heartbeat. The woods behind her seethed with anger, the deep shadows swirling in an unforgiving dance. She could almost visualize the twisted faces in the darkness, writhing and clawing to escape the forest's depths. Each breath tasted like ash, and her heart hammered in her chest as if it were trying to escape her body. Keep running. She urged herself, the chill of realization freezing her veins. The forest's hunger was far from quelled. It was a predator, waiting for her to falter. Just a slip, a stumble, anything to ensnare her once more. As she dashed forward, the vibrant moonlight fell on her like a warm embrace, though it felt distant, almost a taunt. You're safe, it whispered. Yet, the chilling whispers of the forest persisted. You cannot outrun your destiny. She kept her grip on the knife, its hilt slick against the sweat of her palm, a flimsy shield against the horrors she knew awaited her. Memories of her children rushed back, propelling her forward. Would they be safe? Would they understand why she fought? The blade, however, was no longer only a weapon, it had become a promise, a vow to return home. Rounding a thick cluster of trees, Claire found herself on a narrow ledge carved into a dark cliff face. Below, a murky river gurgled like an angry beast, shrouded in mist, swallowing whatever light dared to reach it. The thrill of the abyss stood within reach, but Claire hesitated, fearing the depths just as much as the shadows behind her. Think. She screamed into the void, desperation surging. What do I do? And then she saw it. Beyond the river, a silhouette shifted, a figure shrouded in darkness but undeniably human. Claire's heart leaped. Anna! She called out, voice cracking. But as she strained to see better, a gnawing doubt bubbled within. Was it truly Anna? Or had the malevolence of the forest warped her image, creating a facsimile to lure Claire back into its grasp? The whispers intensified, swirling in a cacophony of jeering laughter and mournful cries. Join us, come home, stop! Claire shouted, shaking her head as if to dislodge the sinister tendrils weaving through her mind. The silhouette swayed, a shadow among shadows. I can't go back. But the figure began to take shape, and Claire felt an unsettling familiarity wash over her. The resemblance was unmistakable. The dark hair, the mischievous glint that once sparkled in Anna's eyes, it was all there. Claire, the figure beckoned softly. Come closer. The knife felt heavy in her hand, and she fought the pull that radiated off the figure. You're not real. Claire yelled, the echoes of the past colliding with her present. You're just a part of this cursed place. A low rumble vibrated through the ground beneath her, almost like the forest itself was responding to her defiance. The cliff shook, stones crumbling from the edge. Claire glanced back, the shadows stretching, eager to seize her weakness. No! She screamed again, gripping the knife tighter. The silhouette dissolved into darkness, merging with the shadows that twisted and flickered around her. But the voice lingered, insistent. You cannot escape the pact. Claire. Desperation bubbled within as the earth beneath her fractured, small rocks cascading into the gaping mouth of the river below. What must she do? Trust yourself. She whispered, pushing through the dread, feeling the tendrils of darkness claw at her sanity. She closed her eyes, drawing strength from her resolve and the love for her children. I will not give in. With one swift motion, she plunged the knife into the cliff face, an anchor for her defiance. The ground rumbled again, but this time it was not just terror, it was a promise of power. The river, in response, surged, twisting and boiling as if awakening from a deep slumber, fighting the tide of darkness that threatened to drown her. Claire took a step forward, daring to believe in the whispers of hope that sought to drown out the echoing despair. The shadows began to part, revealing an unsettling path along the riverbank, but was it truly a path to freedom, or just another trap? What lay ahead could either be her salvation or her undoing. With her heart pounding and resolve wavering, Claire took the first step onto the path, unaware of the new horrors that awaited. Claire, it was Anna's voice again, a mere breath against the chaos, slipping through the constraints of the moment, leaving Claire trembling on the precipice of everything she feared. Could she summon the strength to confront whatever awaited her in this new nightmare? Would she have to face the whispers, head-on? The path felt alive beneath Claire's feet, stirring with an energy that pulsed as if the forest itself was a breathing creature. Each step she took through the mist was delicate, a balancing act on the edge of sanity. The whispers morphed into a derisive chant, taunting her with the familiar sound of her daughter's name, echoing endlessly in every direction. Mom, don't leave me. It pierced through the fog, and a shiver crept down her spine. Was it Anna? Or the woods conjuring another illusion? Struggling with the possibility, Claire pressed forward, heart racing. The flickering moonlight guided her, but every flicker felt like a warning, a countdown. Silhouettes danced in her periphery, just out of sight. Claire's breath quickened, mixing fear and determination. She remembered the knife. A tool of protection, yes, but also a reminder of her purpose. Suddenly, the shadows surged. They cocooned her, wrapping tight, squeezing her mind. You should have joined us, Claire, they whispered, slithering into her soul. Why resist? We wait for you. Get out of my head. She shouted, desperation cracking her voice. She stumbled along the damp ground, trying to block out the malicious echoes filling the air. The darkness roared back, pushing her toward the edge of the bank as the river raged below, hungry and thrashing against the rocks in a frenzy. In moments, the shadows rose around her like smoke, thickening with intent. They swirled into forms, grotesque faces twisting in laughter, yet Claire fought through the panic. She couldn't let them take her deeper. Desperation clawed at her, and she broke into a sprint. I will not be yours. She screamed, channeling every ounce of strength into her words. The light flickered, refracting through the tears that mingled with the mist. Somewhere in the chaos, she saw it again, a flicker of movement by the water. Mom! Please! The voice sliced through her resolve. It wasn't an illusion this time, Claire was sure. It was Anna, a faint figure standing half submerged, her eyes wide with terror. Despair surged through Claire like poison. I'm coming! She cried, drawn toward her daughter like a moth to fire, but as she neared, Anna's expression twisted, a mask of sorrow and something darker. You shouldn't have come back. You don't belong here. No, Claire's heart crashed. The shadows behind her roared louder, an avalanche of reminders of what she was trying to escape. You're not real. It's a trick. Mom! Anna screamed, voice echoing in a heartbreaking crescendo. The shadows closed in, no longer just whispering but wailing, clawing at Claire's sanity. She spun around, taking in a sea of shifting darkness. Join us. Become one with the night. They chanted, the cacophony pulsing in her ears. Panic turned to icy dread. In the midst of the storm, a memory flickered. A smile, a hug, the warmth of home. Rage surged in Claire's chest. She clutched the knife, its cold steel solid against her palm. No! With a warrior's cry, she plunged the blade into the ground, feeling the vibrations surge through her body. The shadows recoiled, hissing in fury as the earth trembled beneath her. Your strength is weak. A voice roared, a figure looming from the shadows. It took form, an embodiment of the forest's twisted essence. Its eyes glowed, devouring light and hope in a gaping maw of darkness, heart pounding. Claire faced it, breathing heavily. She felt Anna's presence flickering like a candle in the wind. I'm not afraid of you. She yelled, defiance igniting a fire in her veins. The creature lunged, and Claire darted to the side, barely escaping its grasp. Instinct drove her onward, a primal need to survive rising like a fever. The shadows clawed at her, almost solid now, each touch sapping her strength, threatening to drag her down into the river, and then, she saw at the water's surface shimmering with strange light. If I can just get there. But as she sprinted toward the river, a chilling realization hit her. The light was not welcoming, it was a reflection of horrors untold, a gateway to unspeakable darkness. Would she plunge into becoming part of the river's curse? With no time to hesitate, she made her choice. Taking a leap of faith, she dove forward, heart racing, and screaming, plunging toward the abyss. Was it her salvation, or merely the beginning of a far worse fate? The cold water engulfed Claire, and for a moment, she felt suspended in space, as if the world around her had dissolved. The screams of the shadows faded, replaced by a suffocating silence that echoed only in her ears. She struggled to swim, panic tightening her chest as the current threatened to drag her under. The cold was like ice, biting through her skin and numbing her limbs. But then a flicker of light shone through the darkness below. It pulsed rhythmically, beckoning her deeper. Claire fought against the chill, kicking hard, propelled by fear and instinct. Something stirred beneath her, darting through the depths. Was it Anna? Just as the shadows above began to morph into monstrous waves, she broke the surface, gasping for air. The river raged around her, but the darkness on the banks felt miles away now. She coughed, water spilling from her mouth, eyes wide, searching for any sign of her daughter. Anna! She screamed, her voice cracking. The mist hung thick above the water, but her gaze was drawn to the shimmer again, a reflection distorted yet familiar. Spluttering, she dog-paddled toward the shore, heart hammering in her chest. Each stroke felt heavier, weighted with the dread of what awaited her on land. As she reached out for the muddy bank, a hand shot out from the depths beside her. No! Claire gasped, recoiling. The fingers were skeletal, reaching as if desperate to pull her under. It wasn't Anna. It was a silhouette of another soul lost to the river, a twisted reminder of the fate that might await her if she failed to escape. She scrambled up, fingers digging into the dirt, pulling her body out of the water with every ounce of strength she could muster. At last, she collapsed onto the shore, panting, her clothes soaked and heavy. The air felt different here, dark yet still, as if the forest was holding its breath, watching. Claire turned, scanning her surroundings with wild eyes. The whispers returned, slithering through the trees. You should have stayed, they hissed, echoing back her worst fears. They were closer now, unseen entities lurking just beyond her vision. Clutching the knife tightly, Claire forced herself to stand. She wouldn't let them pull her back into darkness. Where's Anna? She shouted, hoping for a response, praying to see her daughter step out from the shadows, and then it came a flicker of white tulle gliding through the trees. Claire's heart leaped. "Anna!" she cried, racing toward the movement. But as she drew closer, a bone-chilling feeling settled in her gut. This figure wasn't just a ghost, it was a reflection of Anna, warped and ghastly, tangled in a web of darkness. "Mom, you have to come with me." The voice was Anna's, yet it was laced with despair. The apparition beckoned, struggling against the invisible bounds of an evil force. "No, Anna. It's a trick!" Claire shouted, unable to tear her gaze away from the twisted face of her child. Another shadow loomed behind the specter, larger, darker, intent. Claire's vision blurred with panic. As she shielded her face against the claws of shadow stretching toward them, the moon slipped behind clouds, plunging the area into suffocating blackness. Heart pounding, Claire felt the knife slip from her grip. It landed with a soft thud in the mud, a symbol of her desperation. "You will never take us!" she roared, realizing the truth. She had to confront this darkness head-on. "Anna! Fight it!" The shadows roared in anger. The forest trembled, and the ground beneath Claire's feet vibrated. She stumbled, feeling the pull of despair, her eyes fixated on the silhouette of her daughter, glowing faintly like a lost star. "Mom, don't let go!" But as she reached for the specter, the shadows surged forward, snatching her wrists in icy fingers, dragging her back. Panic erupted within her, fueling a sudden blaze of will. "Let her go!" Claire screamed, raising her arms before her like a shield, feeling the weight of the knife now, a surge of defiance. Would this be the moment when she faced the truth of her demons? The shadows hissed, an orchestra of malice echoing through the trees, and the earth trembled as the chilling grip tightened. Will you fight for her, Claire, or surrender to the dark? As the ghastly figure of Anna flickered in the gloom, Claire could feel the forest closing in. In that terrifying moment, she made her choice, and then everything went black. What had she unleashed? Claire opened her eyes in an abyss of darkness. The familiar sounds of the forest had faded into a heavy silence, thick as fog. She felt weightless, suspended, as if the shadows were swirling around her in a cosmic dance. This was not death, but something far more terrifying. "Mom, don't let go!" Anna's voice echoed through the void, a haunting melody that both comforted and terrified Claire. With every ounce of strength, she forced herself to remember her daughter's face, the laughter, the joy, the light. Light! The thought ignited a flicker of fire within her chest, pushing against the oppressive darkness. "I am not alone!" Claire shouted into the void. "I won't lose you!" And just like that, the darkness shuddered, revealing swirling shapes that began to materialize. The air grew hot and heavy with anticipation, and Claire pushed herself forward, fighting through the thick mists. A feeble light began to flicker ahead, a heartbeat pulse that urged her on. "Anna!" she screamed, pouring her desperation into the void. With each step, Claire felt the grasp of the shadows retreat, almost as if they were listening, unsure how to respond to her resilience. The light grew brighter until it pierced through the darkness, washing over her like a tidal wave. She stumbled, nearly falling, but steadied herself and dashed toward the warmth. The forest reappeared, twisted and gnarled like a painting gone awry. Claire stood in a clearing, and at its center was the shimmering light, a circle of ethereal illumination surrounding her daughter. Anna stood at the heart of it, looking ethereal yet distorted, a reflection of the child she once was. "Mom, you found me!" Anna cried, her eyes bright yet clouded. She reached out, but shadows curled around her, pulling her back into the depths. Claire's heart tore within her at the sight. "No! I won't let them take you!" Claire shouted, determination surging through her veins like fire. She lunged forward, the weight of the knife steady in her hand. The shadows recoiled, swirling wildly as Claire pierced through them with the energy of a storm. "This ends here," she declared, raising the knife high. A sudden bolt of energy surged from the blade as it cut through the darkness, shimmering with brilliance. The very essence of the forest roared in anger, shaking the ground beneath her feet as the twisted faces of lost souls writhed in fury. "Stop! You can't fight what has been awakened." The shadows hissed, their voices mingling into a growing cacophony. "Watch me!" Claire screamed, plunging the knife straight into the heart of the darkness surrounding Anna. Light burst from the blade, radiating like the sun, scattering the shadows like a tempest. Echoes of wailing souls enveloped her, their mournful cries shattering the night. "Mom! You did it!" Anna's voice rang out, filled with hope as the shadows fell back, collapsing on themselves, pulled away by the light. With the knife at its core, Claire felt a responsive energy pulsing through her, connecting her to every heartbeat of the earth, lifting her spirit. She focused on Anna, feeding her strength into the light encircling them both. "Come to me, Anna." Claire beckoned, the light shining brighter against the dread that had clouded her world for too long. The shadows flickered, their presence slowly dissipating as Anna was drawn toward the bright center. Claire reached out her hand, the warmth welcoming her heart, filling her with the love that had been buried beneath pain and darkness. Finally, Anna reached Claire's embrace. The moment their hands met, the light exploded in a dazzling burst, engulfing them entirely. In a kaleidoscope of colors, time seemed to stand still. Claire felt the forest transform, the air alive with welcome and renewal. The weight of despair slipped away, evaporating like mist in the morning sun. When the brilliance faded, they stood together, bathed in the soft glow of dawn filtering through the trees of Hollow Creek. The forest looked alive, vibrant and normal again. The echoes of laughter and the scent of earth kissed by morning dew surrounded them. "Mom!" Anna cried with delight, her face radiant. They clung to one another, the fear of the night layered in memories, fading into a shared future of hope. Claire knew the darkness would linger, but it no longer held dominion over them. They had faced it together, and together they would heal. "Let us go home," Claire whispered, her voice steady. As they turned to leave, she felt the remnants of fear brushing against her shoulder, but now they no longer felt like chains, they were simply shadows, reminders of the strength that lay within them both. They stepped forward into the light, leaving the past behind as they headed toward a future forged in the embrace of love and resilience. This is the moment, the end of their dark chapter. But as they walked away, a voice whispered, lingering still like the last note of a fading song, "You will always be watched." And somewhere, buried deep within Hollow Creek, the shadows slithered back into their corners, waiting, but for them, there would be no more darkness. If you found the courage to face fear today, then subscribe immediately to our channel. You need to stay tuned for the next exclusive story that will push your limits. Smash the like button now. Each click fuels our journey into the unknown. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about this heart-pounding conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this with at least 5 friends who need to experience this mind-bending tale. Only true fans understand the power of supporting the channel through these actions.